Hey, thanks for coming out this evening. This is our first public talk of the year, brought to you by the DRAGEN Lab at St. Jerome's University. We are delighted to have been able to bring over our dear friend and collaborator from Yorkshire, England, Dr. Steve Sherlock. Steve has been an archaeologist since the 1970s, when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Yes, he says. He has a PhD from Leicester and a BA and an MA from Redcar and Cleveland College in Yorkshire. He is the Honorary Vice President of the Royal Archaeological Society and past Chairman of the Teesside Archaeological Society. Steve spends much of his time working on infrastructure and commercial projects across the sort of northeast of England, notably involving major motorways and railways. So when the government needs to build infrastructure, they bring Steve in and he makes sure that the archaeology is preserved and documents. And some of the projects Steve's worked on that are notable are, he was Heritage Advisor for the Lower Thames Crossing. He was Archaeology Lead for works on the A428, Archaeology Manager for the 14 road scheme in Cambridgeshire, and Archaeology Manager for Highways England on the A14 joining Cambridge to Huntingdon. He mostly, though, in his spare time, devotes a lot of energy, and has for many, many years, to a site in Yorkshire, outside of the village of Loftus, called Street House. And Street House is notable because Steve and his team had a major find there. They discovered a 7th century cemetery with a very rare Anglo-Saxon bed burial, as well as many, many significant Neolithic and Iron Age finds. And so he's here today to talk to us about the work he does with the DRAGEN Lab and with our federal project Environments of Change. Will you please join me in giving him a warm Waterloo welcome.
Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening and to be talking about Street House. It's a spectacular site, and I can't understate that. You've probably heard of that anyway.
They can hear you, it's the camera. Is it green?
Indeed, yes, it is. So, I'm going to be talking this evening about my work at Street House, which is putting it in a setting and context in terms of British prehistory. So I'm going to be talking about 4,500 years of British prehistory, based on my work at Street House, which has been undertaken over the last 45 years, see if there's a pattern here, since 1979, when I first went to work as a callow youth, of course, on the Neolithic long care at Street House. I was there this summer in 2024, so you can do the math on that one, assisted by five people from Waterloo University, of which more later. And so we've got two 45s, and the third one is I'm supposed to cover the whole of British prehistory in 45 minutes. Well, good luck with that. I'll have to edit it down greatly, because one of the things that's spectacular about Street House is that we've got Neolithic, Bronze Age, Iron Age, Roman, and Anglo-Saxon activity on one side, and within virtually one field. Within the whole area, you're seeing on this rolling bit of drone footage that you can see above me. So I'm going to be succinct this evening, talking about the Neolithic, Bronze Age, and Iron Age that we've been discovering over the last years, really since 2004, when I started my campaign of excavations at Street House. So the final site is one we're going to come to here, which is what we've been looking at this year. So I will pause this now, close it, and we'll go to the presentation. That was just the taster, if you like, to what we're really going to be looking at. Street House in prehistory. I don't really have a pointer.
You can use the mouse, I think.
I've got long arms. Yeah, so this is the site I'm really going to be talking about. This is where the Neolithic salt working site is. I've spoken about this at the AGMs previously, so I won't dwell on it. But the first site was the Neolithic long cairn, which was just up here. But the image is really to show you potentially how close we are to the cliffs and the coast in Yorkshire. Putting it in the context of this map, northeast England, the River Tees, and we're in North Yorkshire. The Tees is the boundary between Yorkshire and Durham. It wasn't in the Iron Age, which more later. And we're focusing on street house here, and looking at this series of sites where my cursor is here. It's so named after Street House Farm, as my cursor is now. This road is apocryphally a Roman road, ergo it's named Street. Our excavations with all the Neolithic, Bronze Age, Iron Age, Roman and Saxon activity are undertaken in this area of the cursor here. I want to focus on this site because this was what was found with geophysics. My cursor's over the black blob there, and we were unsure what that was, but my geophysics expert suggested to me that could be a Roman pottery kiln. It was based on the fact that was a Roman pottery kiln inside the Roman site here. So we went to look at this site in 2016, but that's in the context of the earlier archaeology, this is the Neolithic long cairn that was excavated by a chap called Blaise Vine when I went along to assist on it. It was found because it was surviving as a partial monument within the hedge, which the hedge line went across from there, and that's to the other side. It survived as a stone mound with a mortuary structure and this facade trench in front of it. And all of the sites from this early Neolithic period date around within the 3,700 to 3,600 BC. And we've got the whole panoply of Neolithic activity of burial, ceremonial, settlement, industrial activity, a real focus of early Neolithic activity in this one location. In a wider context, the Neolithic starting in Britain around about 4,100 BC, with a migration from the Paris Basin into the UK, bringing in pottery for the first time, bringing in livestock and introducing an agricultural regime into the country, replacing a more nomadic Mesolithic existence. And so at a very, very early stage, we've got this settlement and activity moving into the northeast of England with the long cairn, as seen here with this reconstruction. This is the facade, an avenue leading up to it, the mortuary structure behind it, a laying out area to the east, as was seen in the reconstruction. I've suggested the date line there from nearly 4,100 to 2,200 BC, starting at Street House. The radiocarbon dates run from 3,900 to 3,700, but we're calibrating them so tightly now. So far we've got 20 radiocarbon dates, with another 20 we're waiting for from another programme of work that's been supported by Historic England because of the significance of the work we've now uncovered. So as I say, we've got the burial, settlement and industrial activity on the north side of the road. Road wasn't there by this time, of course. Then to the south, you've got these ceremonial sites. The site we're looking at, site termed the Wasset and the Henge, and these are somewhat later. But I was intrigued by what's happening between the north and the south side of the road, and I'll be coming on to that into the later part of my discussion. So as well as the industrial sites, we've excavated two houses, both have radiocarbon dates, giving us in that sequence, certainly 3,700 to 3,600. Looking at the one in the bottom right here is a small circular structure of about 5 metres diameter. The one in the upper left is a postal structure surviving in plan, even smaller, with an entrance to the southeast. And how these would have looked has been reconstructed at the visitor centre at Stonehenge, where they reconstructed some of the houses as would have been seen at Durrington Wall, which is the nearby settlement associated with the foundation of Stonehenge. But, and this is the big but, Street House is earlier than Stonehenge. It's earlier than the pyramids. So if we think about our concept, it's before the pyramids, it's before even Stonehenge. and it's before other major Neolithic sites like Scarborough, Scotland. So it's spectacularly early as well. We've got all of this activity and focus at this time. Settlement and a whole gamut of finds, which are the key indicators. Leaf-shaped arrowheads, prehistoric rock art to the right, and the base at the bottom there, corn grindings, salad stone and pounder. Many of these finds are not just found within the structures I've got, but they're scattered by found in field walking and as reuse and adaptation in the later sites have been excavated as well. So we've got a spectacular array of rock art, weapons, if you think about the arrowheads for hunting, agricultural regimes, industrial archaeology, ceremonial things like this mace head, imported stone from Scotland, most likely. We've got to think about what mechanisms of exchange and transport they're using to move these products around the country. Now, one of the key drivers of the economy at that time was the manufacture and trade and distribution of valuable products such as stone axes, and the thing that Streethouse brings into the game is salt, because it's the only place, the earliest site in Western Europe where they're manufacturing salt by evaporating seawater. So this is why English Heritage are supporting the site so well. Streethouse has salt working evidence from the Neolithic dating to 3700 BC. If that's 3700 BC, if you moved your timeline this way, the next site that's manufacturing salt in Britain is at 1250 BC at Breen Down in Somerset. So we've got this large gap, making salt in the Bronze Age and on into the Iron Age, but all this big gap here going up to Streethouse in the Neolithic, and they're making salt here. I will discuss, I know there'll be a good question saying, why aren't they making it anywhere else? That's your starter for the first questions at the end. The next question is, why Streethouse? Because it's on top of the cliff. You've probably seen the pics. It's 170 metres above sea level, and a long way away from the coast. Bearing in mind we've got coastal erosion, environments have changed. So sea levels have risen, the cliffs have been eroded, the coast is even further away. They had to transport the brine, which they're using seawater, up to the top of the cliff and evaporate it in this furnace. Now there's your second question. Let's have a look at the view. So there's the sea today, and you can get an idea to go 300 metres to get to the Salton that we excavated. I will say this isn't the only Salton site, as I could have shown you on the geophysics, that's my hope, but it's occurring in more than one location and on an industrial scale. So it's not a one-off of happy circumstance. Oh, we've managed to make a bit of salt out, aren't we clever? They're making it on an industrial scale. And they're transporting the liquor from the site at the top of the cliff, round past Josie's cottage, because it wasn't there then, downhill, down to here. So you've gone from 170 metres through the contours, along here, around here, to about this point, where you're still about 50 metres off the beach. But bearing in mind, you've got 300 metres of coastal loss, cliff loss, you're actually, I believe it would have been eroded down to sea level to form a bay somewhere around here, where the brine would have been collected. But the sea would have still been coming to the bottom of the cliff. It's a moist environment, there's no kindling, so you can't produce to get an evaporation kiln going. You haven't got your fuel, so there's no chance that they're making it at the bottom of the cliff. There is a whole chain of operation which I will go into, probably in questions or on another occasion. To go through the sequence of what we found, that was what we discovered in 2019. I said in 2016 we'd started the excavation here. The wonderful James Lawton did the geophysics, he was my expert. He said, Steve, you've probably got a pottery kiln there. And after a week's hand digging, we'd shifted 6 tons of earth with shovels and spades, no JCBs, we were a bit tired out, so we brought James back and said, James, can you check this geophysics kit you've got? Because we clearly haven't got what you've done here. We haven't found anything yet. And he said, you've got to dig deeper. At which point, he was well out of reach of my fist, because there were 6 people who were blooming well beaten into a pulp, saying, we've worked hard for a week, but we haven't done enough work. Suffice to say, we got the machine back, we've stripped larger areas and gone deeper, because this is a large, deep, oval structure, the outline of which you can see in this image here. We've got pink so at one end of the oval, goes round it in an arc round there, and this is following the outline of this Neolithic building that is, if I say filled with carbonated molds, we've got the largest assemblage of this type of pottery in Northeast England. And the reason for that is they're making Neolithic pottery in a kiln on this site. So it's not the only place in Western Europe where they're making salt this early. It's the only kiln for manufacturing pottery in the Neolithic period. So we've got 2 firsts. Now the features we can see are 2 large, deep voids. And I would emphasise is the amount of soil there is around here and around here. That was rounded up by the JCB with a big bucket and the ability to shift tons of earth. A few people here working hard with buckets of space and travels, of course, doing the fine detail work. But with a pickaxe, it would have been much harder work. And so there has to be a good reason to undertake this. And as I say, it's not a hobbyist thing. There's a human motivation in how this has been created. This is just to show you the depths that we've been going to. So it's about 2 metres below ground. That's the ground surface, 60 centimetres of soil and features cutting into it. And you've got this furnace here, which is the heat source for firing pots and also creating the furnace in which the temperature is risen to at least 600 degrees to start the evaporation process. And so this furnace of about 1 metre diameter is almost unparalleled in Western Europe. There's a bigger one in Eastern Europe, in Romania, but I'm going to come back to that. I emphasised earlier that we've got this little site here, but it's not working in isolation. The geophysics suggested to me there are other similar features here, including another furnace to the north, which you can see surviving as a white deposit overlying the boulder clay here, and I'm outlining that with the cursor there. This is a secondary salt working feature where there's a calcium carbonate deposit, which is the first phase of evaporating seawater, which is covered the site and overlaid a stone surface, which is a second salted structure. As I say, it's white clay there with a series of post holes. We've got a radiocarbonate from this feature of 3,700 as well. So all of the sites that I'm mentioning, including a boundary to the site of the salt working features, including some we found this year, it's all happening in this century. How do we know it works? Well, the clever event Sanderson, I say clever because she had passed the Viva today to get a PhD accepted by Sheffield University, but she reconstructed this experiment based on the finds we've got, trays and furnace and structures, and put some seawater into some briny liquor into site. The heat rises and slowly you're getting the evaporation crystals. And we've been able to produce 35 to 40 grams of salt per litre of briny liquor, which is roughly a 3% return, which is the amount of salt that there is in a litre of water. So we can reproduce the experiment quite well, and this is how we think that the process it was worked. There are, as I said, 2 features, one of which is storing up to 6,000 litres of liquor that are bringing it up to the site in these 3 pits. And there's the furnace, flues and open hearths, a flue and a chimney at the end which is drawing it through. The next stage of our experiment will be this coming summer, we're going to build the chimney and try and make the whole process work out. And so it's an ongoing experiment. This artist's reconstruction here is just showing you the clearing in the woodland leading up to the long hair in the distance. So some of these sites are also intervisible as well. And the coloured images there are showing the different sequence going from the furnace to a flue. These 2 features in purple are open hearths where the vessels stand, and somebody stands here and pours liquor into there. There's a flue which is drawn through the air, created by a fire here, drawing the hot air through to a chimney. So it works as a process. This is just an image of one of the TV companies that's recording an hour of work, and it's showing you to give an indication of the size and scale of what we're looking at here. From a very small hole, 8 metres by 5, we've got nearly 6,000 artefacts in the whole sequence there, and so it's spectacular in itself. And these artefacts have survived intact, almost as like a time capsule below this soil horizon, where it was backfilled and sealed with a white calcium carbonate deposit. So all of the bags are individually marking the thousands of finds we're getting from the site. So to put it in a landscape context, you've got Neolithic structure here and a house, structure 19, another Neolithic structure here, and then the cairn up there. A wider setting, you've got Bronze Age activity beside and over the long cairn, another Bronze Age burying mound there, Bronze Age activity in the wider landscape. I'll be discussing these Bronze Age and Iron Age sites next. So in terms of the early Bronze Age, we've got evidence for clearance cairns and the creation of burial mounds, as we're illustrating here. There's a series of barrows barrow is my term I'm equating to, burial mounds. There's one sitting on top of the Neolithic cairn, and this is indicating a reuse of these important sites over a period of time. So we've got this interesting dichotomy of sites from one period that being accepted and reused at later periods of time. You've also got the reuse of objects within that as well as an important idea, an icon. But in terms of the Bronze Age now, we've got site number 1, site number 2, site number 3, Bronze Age burial mounds there, Galley House there, number 16 is a Bronze Age house. So that they're in this sort of focus area, nothing in the middle. There's another land except a watercourse coming through here, which I think is a territorial boundary between the burials on this side of the contour and those on the ridge of the hill. These are all Bronze Age burial mounds excavated in the 19th and early 20th century by William Hornsby. So you've got division within the landscape of Bronze Age sites. And one of the key sites that was found was excavated again by Blaise Vine in the early 1980s was this site called the Street House Wasses. It's very similar to a site called Seahenge that was excavated in around 2000. A very small timber circle dated around about 2200 BC. It's about 6 to 8 metres across in diameter. Settings here, individual settings where there were posts located. So those posts are there. That feature there is a post there. It continues around, making 4 quadrants with a central pit with two deep set posts. Finds from this site including a battle axe, 1 large jet beam, and some rock art. And I'm emphasising this is the type of finds we were recovering from this site south of the road round about 2200 BC. Overlaying this was a number of stones, pebbles and things. This ditch had been infilled by a stone pebble surface. The reason I'm labouring this, you'll see in the next slide, but having understood that the Wassett Street House site is just down here, and I'd never looked on the south side of the road, we did geophysics in the field leading from the salt site south of the road. The geophysics is showing us these long patterns of medieval split fields, the ridge and furrow, and a series of targets. Oh look, there's a big black blob that looks like another sultan. Now it took me 6 years to dig the last one, so although this looks like an open goal, I should go straight to it, I don't necessarily want to spend another 6 years repeating the last experiment, because that would be foolhardy to say the least. Well, everyone thought that's where I was going to be headed. My strategy in 2024 was to look at other sites in the area, looking for trackways, settlement, and other activities areas, which we could equate to the late Neolithic or potentially the early Bronze Age, again around 2200 BC. So we've got the geophysics, and these red areas represent sites that I wanted to test and examine with a series of trenches. So I got a machine and a cohort of 5 eager people from Waterloo University, eager to start. The strategy was we'd excavate these 5 trenches as an evaluation. The one that was the most promising, we would then bring a machine back, strip it and do more work. So we started at 8 o'clock down here, looking for a trench over this dark circular monument coming around here. By 8:15, we hadn't found anything. We moved down to here. By 9 o'clock, we found nothing in there. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, nothing in there. And the good old Canadian students had recorded that one, cleaned that one, photographed that one, and we were ready to backfill. And I had one. This was my last throw of the dice. This target over here at 11:45. By then, I was thinking what we're going to be doing in the afternoon. However, the trench, fortunately, went across the top of this stone monument here. Whilst there was no bit of Roman pottery jumping out at me, and no evidence for Romans or Anglo-Saxons at that time, we could recognise the curving arc of a stone structure, which became the main target and focus of our work this year. I'll go back there a second. One thing I want to emphasise is that the boundary here curves and goes round in an arc and back along there. We'll come back to that. So, further work with the machine over the second day, we started to clean the site. We're excavating a circular monument that contained absolutely filled with stones all the way around here, continuing outside the excavation area, under the public footpath, but probably not going around there. This was immediately very reminiscent of the site that Blaise Binder had excavated for some 40 years earlier, which was just there, just by that curve. So you come 250 metres to the west, and there's another potentially similar monument, if it only had the same sort of finds on it. But we started to clean around it, and as you can see, we've got Sarah, Erin, Linda doing all the important planning, Kate and Shannon working there as well. They're all doing the work, with one person walking around carrying a bucket looking busy. So I'll have a chat to them for a minute or so. Come on, you haven't found anything yet. Work harder, sort of thing. And I'll eventually go back to my spot and do very, very little. But the key activities are we're cleaning the site, starting to identify finds. You can see how this is ultimately going to go in an arc ramp there. And this is where it ended up, with an arc of stones set in a ditch overlying a feature. And this was starting to look very reminiscent of Blaze's site. However, there were a number of interesting features. At this point, it widens out. And I'm wondering if there's another building abutting it here. We haven't got the full circle. Now, by this time, the landowner has come over to me and said, usually by this time, said, how much longer are you going to be here, Steve? We're trying to build a road or something like that. In this case, he said, well, this is interesting. Have you found anything? What are you going to do? Well, what are you going to do next year? Are you going to come back and do some more? That's an open goal item in this. So the strategy is that we're cleaning and recording the site this year, looking at objects, artifacts, environmental evidence, and indicators of date for this site. So we weren't under pressure to finish the site, so we're cleaning it, recording it. And if I want to see it in total, is that going to be a complete ring ramp there, or is there going to be an entrance? Well, we don't know. So we've decided we clean it, record it, finish other work, and then we've got an opportunity to come back next year and excavate this in detail. But as you can see, there are an awful lot of stones on that plan. They haven't been found by ploughing the field. They've been brought to the site, thousands of stones in, let's call it, a community effort, if you like, going to the point of making a monument, an archaeological site. The stones have probably been bought from the cliff. The nearest outsourced outcrop of stones is probably about 500 metres away. So they've collected rock to create a visual monument at this location over a ditch and features that we're finding on the interior of the monument. So what are we finding? Well, it was a team effort, so Erin and Kian never done archaeology before, so they said to me, Steve, what's this damn deposit? I'm looking at it thinking, looks to me like charred grain. Now that's giving you evidence for the economy, the environment, and great dating evidence for radiocarbon dating. So this is immediately sampleable. It can tell you if they're growing barley, it's giving you an indication of their crop regimes, and if it's roasted, as shown here in the chart, there's been some sort of ceremonial activity that is buried this as possibly some indication of feasting or something like that. So the plan was we would certainly excavate that and look at the material and look underneath it, and we found an antler tine. Two parts of it here, another part of it as well over there, and these antler tool tines, again, very rare, not frequently found, and often indicators of the sort of tools that have been used to create ditches and monuments like this. And as part of the votive and ritual of making it, they're then buried alongside as part of the creation. So they've been excavated and have gone to laboratories in Edinburgh for analysis. And then other finds we've got from the site. As it says here, beads, we've got 6 jet beads. We thought we had 7, but there's a better story than that. These are rough-outs that haven't actually been finished. Jetting is local in provenance from the cliffs, and so is a very usable product as well. You find it on late Neolithic and early Bronze Age site. Jet beads. Now, where else have we found jet beads nearby? In the street house Cairn, and also in the street house Wassett. So we've got jet beads from here, six of them. Rock art in the bottom here. This is my version of the screen with the 2 eyes, nose and face. We haven't got one piece of rock art. We've got 70 cut marked and decorated stones, a battle axe, jet beads. All of these things are key indicators, dating evidence, and the parallel to them is again going back to the street house Wassett, where they had another part of a battle axe, not the same one, sadly, even though it's the other rounded end of it. One jet bead, we've got 6, and also a rock art. There's already more rock art here. We haven't finished excavating the site, so it's looking very, very similar. Interest in the site has been tremendous as ever. The Alison Sheridan, the doyen of the Neolithic, has been down and is working with me on the salt working site. Took the jet back to the National Museum in Scotland, has done PXRF on it, which is X-ray fluorescence, to assess the material. 6 of them did turn out to be jet items. I'm saying items. Obviously, the top one is the bead. You can see how there's soil ingrained in it. It's been chipped, it's been drilled and perforated there. Beautiful things. Then one was found by Shannon, one was found by Erin, one was found by Gillian, and so they had a 3-0 lead on me. Not this competition, as I always emphasise, but in the second half, I went out and found another one, and then 3 more rolled out, and so we ended up with 4 jet beads. But these are different in that they're rough outs, suggesting they've been made locally, and they were never drilled and never finished. And the parallel to this at Barnby House, another early Bronze Age site, about 8 miles to the north on the way to Whitby. So, whilst we were all playing and finding wondrous things, Linda did her stone by stone plan of the site, which we've now been able to reproduce the stones. Each of the orange indicators here are where the rock art is, so that's where the face is of the piece of rock art down there. Gillian's bead didn't turn out to be jet, it's glass, interestingly. The expert from the National Museum of Scotland, who deals with Roman and Anglo-Saxon antiquities, thinks it's of that later date. So that's an enigma, if you like. We'll come back to that. Rock art all the way around the southern and eastern sides of the site to this point here. The charred grade and antler just came from this location. There's pottery just up there. So we've got part of a Bronze Age pot there. We've got part of a food vessel from the central area. Haven't got the plan of the central area here, but food vessels are often associated with the charred grade. All of the type indicators for this is that it's early Bronze Age, but it's probably been readapted, as some others are, with Anglo-Saxon burials and things inside, because I think the pottery from down here in this glass bead are Anglo-Saxon. So, an interesting and exciting site, lots of potential, and we're being encouraged to go back and excavate this site fully next year. Having backfilled the site, because we couldn't finish it this year, didn't intend to, we've planned the interior, we know there's more material to sample, there's 5 soil samples and phosphate samples. We did PXRF, and there's high indications of phosphate in the centre, which could indicate burials. So we don't know whether this is a burial site or a ceremonial monument, a bit like the street house was it, complete ring with internal features of some sort of burial like that. An exciting prospect, totally unparalleled. The county archaeologist came to see the site, and he looked around. Robin's probably not the most trendy person in the world, but he said, "Boy, Steve, this is cool. What a site! It's the best thing you've ever done." I said, "What? Better than the Anglo-Saxon princess?" "Oh yeah, well better than the Roman Iron stuff I've done." He said, "Yeah." So I thought, I'm going to try it out now. "Better than the Woolly Mammoth I got on the A14." "Oh, better than the Woolly Rhino." "Yeah." I thought, try and look. "Better than the pyramids I dug in the Tutankhamun's pyramid." I was trying it on then. He didn't believe me. But you get the idea. This is spectacularly important. Lots of people are interested in it. It's somewhat unparalleled. We've got the opportunity to look at it in detail. We're going to get the carbonised grain analysed and radiocarbon dated. The antler time is being conserved in Scotland. So we've got some spectacular finds. So the denouement of this was that we were organising a conference about the Neolithic, so all the Neolithic experts came to see it and went away excited as well. So we've got lots of public interest, local interest in looking at that site. But I also promised you a bit of Iron Age. I'm good for time? Right, okay, nobody's running out yet. I did say we do the Street House, we do the Neolithic, the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. Now, why did I go to Street House? Well, was it sort of good luck or a level of randomosity? I actually went to look at an Iron Age settlement, because that's what I was doing my PhD on in the early noughties. I knew Street House, having done there 20 years previously, knew that there was potential. It was a nice rural location, nice place to spend my summer holidays for 1 year. 20 years later, my wife decided she wanted to see me in the summer. That's another story. So in essence, I went and did an Iron Age settlement at Street House in the knowledge there was about 1,600 Iron Age sites known on the heritage records within Yorkshire and County Durham. Of those 1,600, about 160 were excavated across the region. In the Tees Valley, my study area, there were 30 Iron Age settlements. I was trying to characterise them by the material wealth in them. So a settlement, they all had subsistence, which is the evidence for cooking, animal bones, hearths and structures that told you that they were getting by at least. But to break it down into status, whether they're evidence for working textiles, metalworking, crafts, spinning and weaving or manufacturing things as another option, or display items and things. So I looked at all the evidence from the finds across, and again, Street House had evidence for Street House's site here, as you know, by display items, other crafts, metalworking, textiles. Some of the others didn't. I was finding this out by the long and hard way of stripping areas and excavating. So in the early years, in 2005, we had a series of large houses, 12, 13 metres diameter. As you can see, it's very shallow, down to about 10 inches below there, but there's still wall lines surviving around here, internal structures, a hearth and floor surfaces. So there's great preservation evidence for the crops being grown, landscapes, how the houses were made. So I was looking at the different types of settlements and structures you would find. And we've got two evidences for activity at Street House. Over a period of time, you've got a change moving from large round houses of 13 metres diameter where people are living, probably only two houses within the enclosure, and living as extended family, mother and father, possibly grandparents and children living in one large round house. Over the 200 years of occupation of Street House, from around 200 BC to 050 AD, you've got this time change moving away from these large circular structures like this one reconstructed near the site at Street House, looking like this in the bottom left image, which are houses inside an Iron Age enclosure, as shown in the Street House site plan up here, and the little dotted area showing the areas worked each year. To expect the enclosure fills up because, I argue, of the success and development of the site, and it extends over the enclosure ditch into the wider landscape. So they end up with about 15 Iron Age round houses in the areas excavated. Some of them small, like this in the upper right here, only 5 to 6 metres diameter. And I argue we've got a change from an extended family undertaking one level of farming, growing crops and rearing animals, to a developed economy where they're actually manufacturing salt, as we're going to come on to. So this is how the larger house looked. These are the smaller houses, those pesky Saxons who got in the way. That's another story. So, as you see, my thesis was nearly ruined by a series of Anglo-Saxon graves cutting through the middle of all the pictures. But fortunately, that's the story from the day. I got stuck in the Iron Age, where I had these things called structured deposits, things that hadn't been found randomly thrown away. They're actually digging pits and burying objects in them that had significance. So we've got quern stones, bottom of saddle stone there, smoothing stone, evidence of salt, and a small piece of ironwork here, which is the spearhead here. So you've got all these objects placed inside pits around houses, sometimes foundation deposits, sometimes sealing and closing the site, but they're not necessarily broken or worn out. So you've got evidence for ritual deposits within the later Iron Age at Street House. Jet, my recurring theme. By this time, they're manufacturing jet beads and jewellery on site. We've got this miniature token, that's only 5 centimetres. It's almost like a child's toy of a votive offering of a miniature saddle quern with a little dimple there to represent where the handlock would be, and this is the hopper. So you've got items being made for very significant reasons. At the same time, we've got evidence for salt working, and I'm talking now, the enclosures being infilled, and you've got these smaller structures, as indicated here, and salt working in zones of activity around the site. The radiocarbon dates suggest this is occurring between 50 BC and 50 AD, so it's going on towards the Roman period. The things we're finding are these shallow trays, props, salt vessels, grids and things inside a furnace or hearth here. Recognising these in 2005-7 were key indicators in understanding how salt was working for the first time in Yorkshire. Were parallels elsewhere in the country, previously unknown in Yorkshire. Seeing these things here gave me clues to understanding what I was finding in the Neolithic period at Street House, because they weren't recognised in the Neolithic previously, partly because Neolithic people don't often dig Iron Age sites, people very narrow period specialists, and so I was lucky in the sense that I dug this Iron Age site and could return and find a similar thing at a much earlier site. So this is towards the end of my talk now. It shows all the key participants in the site here. This is the early days when we stripped the first base, found this stone surface, started to clear it around, and we're finding bits of rock art. Erin's finding jet bead as seen here. In essence, what I was going to say to you now is this is how we left the site this year. We've planned the interior. There are vestiges of a structure which I haven't done. We've got soil samples being analysed for what's going on. Is there evidence for human remains? We've got a food vessel in the centre of there. We've got evidence for cereal and for rock art, and we've got permission to widen the path. Here I want to emphasise how the hedge and field boundary moves around the site at this point. It survived as a monument until recent times, and so the boundary is curved round it, as had the footpath, and so the site was known in the landscape until recent times. And one thing I was emphasising was how people are reusing these sites and monuments from the late Neolithic, early Bronze Age, possibly by installing some Anglo-Saxon burial in and around here. We're finding the vestiges of it surviving with the glass bead and the pieces of pottery around here, disturbed by much later ploughing, because as you can now see, it's a ploughed field. So the strategy this winter is it's being backfilled. We're going to do some ground penetrating radar to see if some of the features in the centre are forming a large pit where there is potentially a burial or some sort of structure. And I'm also looking for another structure like this to the north or to the north, which is this way, and to the south there, as well as we will revisit the site in the centre, the black blob, and do some more geophysics there. Because between these two sites, there is also a henge, which I haven't really mentioned. So we've got this whole gamut of Neolithic and Bronze Age sites and an exciting landscape that is covered with Neolithic activity. And this will be the focus of our work. The landowner is keen on us coming along to do some work next year. We can choose when we like, because it's a grass field, we started in July or whenever. And they're also keen on us getting schools coming along to take part, see the site. We had hundreds of local people came to visit the site this year. We put an exhibition on in the town. There's a lot of strong community, local support, as well as academic interest and spectacular results. So that is how that little piece of work we do at Street House is rewriting the prehistory of Britain in a small way, but also internationally with the salt discoveries and also Anglo-Saxon princess. But I've overrun, but that's very brief. Thank you very much.